Now, the British Antarctic Survey is warning that what was the world's second largest emperor penguin colony has all but disappeared. Researchers put the collapse in numbers down to changes in sea ice. Penguins have been forced to try to find other colonies to join or not breed at all. The scientists say the emperors might lose more than 50% of their global population by the end of the century if the sea ice is greatly reduced. Well, let's get more now from Dr. Michelle LaRue. She's a lecturer in Antarctic marine science at the Universities of Canterbury in New Zealand and Minnesota in the US. She joins me now from Christchurch. Dr. LaRue, thank you very much for talking to us. Just what do you believe happened here with this particular colony?
Yeah, it's very interesting. What it seems to have happened is that a lot of the birds at a minimum moved, and what happened to the rest of them, we're not exactly sure. But what we do know is that, in a couple of years, the sea ice was very poor around Halley Bay, and emperor penguins can't live without the fast ice that's connected to the continent. They need that as a platform to breed. And so when that didn't show up after a couple of years, they decided to either leave or completely fail in their breeding.
Right, so you'd say that this particular colony of up to, 25,000 breeding pairs disappeared practically overnight?
Exactly. And we do know that some of these colonies in other places around the continent will move. Sometimes they'll up and leave. But for me, what was so big about this is this was the second largest colony in the world as of estimates from 2009. And so to see such a drastic change in such a big colony like that was I think something I probably was not exactly expecting.
And the tragic part of it, well, the particularly tragic part of this is that while the adults may have been able to move, the chicks were not able to swim.
Yeah, so the year, I think it was 2016, when the sea ice broke out earlier. So what that means is it melted away earlier, I think as of October of 2016. The chicks that were there at the time would not have been able to swim yet. And so they would have been completely lost. It's
a very tragic thing in itself. How does the plight of penguins affect all of us and all other creatures?
Well, so I personally don't want to live in a world without penguins. So I think it affects us in in the knowledge that they may not be doing well as the sea ice changes around Antarctica. And furthermore, they're of course an important part of the food web. They're what we call a mesopredator. So they're both prey for animals like leopard seals, but they also prey themselves on krill and fish species. So they do play an important role in the ecosystem.
Yeah, just tell us the prognosis for these particular creatures and more widely in that region.
Yeah, so the idea and the models suggest that over the next 100 years or so, emperor penguins are likely to decline substantially, and that's largely because of the fluctuations and the decreases in the sea ice habitat that they need in order to breed. And so that's what we know. And of course, what we're doing now is trying to figure out more specifically how close they are tied to some of these fluctuations in the sea ice and other environmental parameters to see if we can kind of figure out a little bit more specifically what's going on. But we are doing that observational work and that research right now.
Okay, I was going to ask you, what can we do about it? We have to leave it there, I'm afraid. Dr. Michelle LaRue, thank you so much for bringing us that rather bleak news about Antarctic sea ice.